To find out what this election could mean for the Palestinians, we're joined live by Ramzi Baroud, an editor at the PalestineChronicle.com. Thanks for joining us. So if Benjamin Netanyahu retains his seat as prime minister, how will the makeup of the coalition government impact the construction, do you think, of the Jewish settlements?
Well, sadly, it's not going to have any practical impact as far as the daily struggle of Palestinians is concerned. The Israeli bulldozers will not slow down for a minute, whether it's going to be a coalition, the bulk of it coming from Yesh Atid, or a coalition that is exclusively or largely reliant on the ultra-Orthodox and the ultra-nationalists. Not because we can read what happens in the future, but because we've learned from the past as Palestinians and anyone else who's really looking into the legacy and the record of Israeli governments, whether the two terms of Benjamin Netanyahu or even previous governments under the Labour Party or the Kadima, the centralist parties of the past. Nothing really changes on the ground. The settlements will continue to grow. In fact, there is consensus within the Israeli society and the Israeli political elites that the settlements, the issue of the settlements is an issue that cannot be bargained upon. The differences are mostly tactical. It pertains to language. If it ends up being a coalition that includes centralist or even leftist parties, and that is less likely, we are going to be a greater emphasis on the peace process and perhaps few token sessions with Mahmoud Abbas and his men in Ramallah to give the impression that there is a fundamental change of Israeli policies. But again, on the ground, things will most likely stay the same.
So what do you see as the future of the peace process in general?
Again, it's going to be, of course, things will stand still. There is no peace process. There hasn't been any peace process for years, and most likely there will not be peace process under Netanyahu or under the mentality by which Israel is governed. In fact, I think there's too much emphasis on Netanyahu, while in reality Netanyahu is a reflection or an expression of a growing tendency of Israeli society that is either oblivious to the peace process, as in the centralists or the leftists. They really don't feel like this kind of impetus to restart anything or talk with Palestinians, and of course the ultra-nationalists and the ultra-Orthodox that are fundamentally and essentially opposed to any compromises or any discussion with Palestinians that will concede an inch of what they consider the rightful home of or the historic home of Jewish people.
Now, taking a look at the situation from an outside perspective, you have Hamas and Fatah engaged in reconciliation talks and the UN voting overwhelmingly to improve Palestine's diplomatic status at that body. What do you think then lies ahead for Netanyahu's government in that regard?
Well, I think Netanyahu is fully aware that he is going to embark upon a very a battle that is going to define the reputation of his country internationally. But it's going to be largely a PR battle, where Israel is going to try to restate its claims to the historic land of the Palestinians, and they are going to try to mend fences with the Barack Obama administration, and they are going to try to reach out to the European countries as they have done in the past, and they have lost favor with all of these countries in recent months and years under Netanyahu. But again, I think it largely depends on the shape and the look of that coalition. If it's going to move somewhat towards the center and the left, we are going to see more of a somewhat refined version of Benjamin Netanyahu. If it's going to adhere to the Shas, Jewish Home, Beitenu, and other parties, we are going to see the same stubborn, very vulgar, if you will, Benjamin Netanyahu that we have used to seeing in recent years.
Finally, the political impasse over Iran doesn't look likely to go away soon. Do you think there's an increased chance of Israel striking Tehran's nuclear program, given the apparent outcome of this election?
It's really difficult to tell at this point, because it seems that Israelis are growingly becoming more aware of the deteriorating economy of their own country, of the gap between the rich and poor, of the welfare state that seems to be catering towards the ultra-Orthodox at the expense of other classes and other sectors of Israeli society. Netanyahu might use the Iran scenario in order for him to distract perhaps from the problems that are soon to emerge to his new government, regardless of the look and the shape of that government. But whether he is going to actually enact some of his threats and go after Iran and strike Iran, especially during a period in which Obama, I do not think is in any political mood to go for another war against Iran. I think it's becoming tougher and tougher for him to do so.
All right, Ramzi Baroud, thanks very much for your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.